Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of the Results Academy nutrition course. So this is the nutritional basic lesson. And in this video, we're going to go through two main things. The first thing is going to be the nutritional pyramid, which is kind of our overall outlook on nutrition. And the second is our 3 sort of nutrition rules. So let's take a look at the nutritional pyramid first. So as you can see there are a number of layers to the pyramid. And the most important layers are at the bottom. So, for example, and then the way that as we move up the pyramid, they become least important, essentially. So there's 6 different tiers. We have adherence at the bottom. So essentially, adherence is how long you can stick to something. Then we have our calories, then macronutrition, so that's your carbs, your fats, and your protein. Then we have our micronutrition, so that's vitamins, minerals, fiber, meal timings, and finally, right at the top, supplements. Now, supplements are often, something where people will look to focus on mainly first, especially when it comes to sort of getting in shape and losing weight. Weight loss shakes and fad diets are based around supplements, but where actually they make very little difference if you don't have sort of these sort of main tiers in place first. And during this course and during the time at the Results Academy, we're going to primarily focus on the bottom 3 layers of the pyramid. So adherence, calories, and macronutrition. Because if we can get these right, and if we get these right and we're consistent with them, you can see some really, really impressive results long term. So we're now going to get on to the nutritional rules, essentially, okay? Now, we know it's easy to get lost and confused when it comes to nutrition. There are loads of conflicting information out there. Lots of people with different advice. So here we like to make it nice and simple. That's what nutrition here is all about, simplicity. There's no fads, there's no crash diets, there's no weird supplements, and there's no restrictions. It's just this few simple, very effective, flexible guidelines that are easy to put into action and even easier to adjust to suit your goals, your personal preference, and your lifestyle. It's important to get these 3 nutrition rules right because essentially getting your nutrition right so you can improve your strength, your body shape, your health, your performance can be broken down into these 3 really simple but very effective nutritional rules. So rule number 1, single ingredient food 80% of the time. So this is what it looks like essentially. It means having stuff like steak, sweet potatoes, chicken, lean protein sources, lots of fruits and vegetables. Including the main source of your diet comes from these types of food, essentially. Another way to phrase this could be just eat real food. And the reason we want to do this is because good quality nutrition gives us energy. It satisfies our hunger better, it improves our health, and there are loads of other benefits that go with including these foods into your diet. So you want to aim to include lots of good quality single ingredient foods and not have your diet dominated by junk food and processed food. So rule number 2 is be flexible 20% of the time though. So you should definitely make sure that good quality whole foods dominate your daily food intake. That's why 80% of the time we want to stick to single ingredient foods as part of our main meals. But the other 20% of the time you can be flexible and pretty much eat whatever you want. So that's what this would look like. So obviously the top of the pyramid, it's okay to have some donuts, it's okay to have some junk food, and it's okay to enjoy some of the not so great food, but we just love the taste of it essentially. Don't worry about having these things every now and again, just make sure that they don't dominate your diet. And B, when you do have them, they fit into your daily calories for the day. We're going to talk about calories and tracking food in a couple of other lessons later on. But the reason we want to fit them into your calorie targets is so you don't massively overeat. Because if you overeat, you consume too many calories. And if you consume too many calories, you're going to end up gaining body weight. And we know that to lose body fat, we need to be in a calorie deficit. This means consuming slightly less calories than our body is burning. Then to build muscle, we need to be in a calorie surplus. So that's where we're going to be consuming a bit more calories and our body's burning, so we can give our body the building blocks it needs basically to grow new muscle. But within those targets, we can be totally flexible. We don't have to be on a clean eating diet all the time. We can have that 20% flexibility, especially at the weekends, especially on those social occasions, weddings, hen-dos, holidays. We're big advocates of this approach because it allows you to enjoy your life and not feel like you're on a strict diet all of the time. It means you can go and have some ice cream when you go to the cinema with your other half, and you can go and eat some cake at your kid's birthday party. But all this is reliant on rule number 3. Now, this is the important one. Rule number 3. Track your food intake and hit your calorie and macronutrients most of the time. So macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats. Now, this is important because if you don't track, you can't possibly know if you're eating too much, too little, or even being consistent all the time. And if you don't know that, then you can't realistically expect to get good long-term results. Like I said, the main reason for tracking is to see if your nutritional targets that have been set to you by one of us or one of the coaches are actually working. And by that, I mean, is eating this much food helping you reach your goal of losing body weight? To start with these targets from your coach are going to be an educated estimate. They're a starting point, essentially. There's going to be a bit of trial and error, but then we want you to check in with your coach and get your measurements done. We can see that maybe you need to eat more, maybe you need to eat a bit less, or maybe we just stay the same for now. It's impossible to try and be as accurate and consistent as possible. And you can use this all in a MyFitnessPal app, which many of you have probably heard of. So tracking your food allows us to monitor what you're eating, make adjustments in increasing or decreasing your calorie intake, so your progress never plateaus for too long. So as well as sticking to the number 1 rule of 80% of the time your food comes from single ingredient foods, and the number 2 rule, which is being flexible 20% of the time, you're also going to try and stick to rule number 3, which is to track your food intake and hit your calorie target every day. The calories are the most important thing. An important note is that you're never going to be spot on to the exact gram or the exact calorie every day, but a good level of accuracy is within, say, 100 to 200 calories. So if your daily calorie target is, say, 2,000 calories, then anywhere between 1,800 to 2,200 calories will be a really good estimate for you to sort of aim for. You're never going to be spot on the exact calories, but being in the sort of the right ballpark is going to do the trick. So they're the 3 nutrition rules. 3 simple nutrition rules. Now, it's not easy because there are lots of things that go into getting this right every day. There's a lot of habits, a lot of hard work, a lot of consistency, but that is as simple and as straightforward as nutrition can be broken down to right now. So those just 3 things. These 3 rules here. And the reason it's just these 3, because it's easy to understand, it's straightforward to put into action, and most importantly, they work and they're going to get the job done. They get results. It's as simple as that. And on top of that, and this is the really important part, you won't ever feel like you're dieting because there's that 20% flexibility. There's room to make some changes without feeling like you've fallen off the wagon. There's room to enjoy some of the foods you love that wouldn't typically be classed as, shall we say, healthy. So it's just those 3 simple nutrition rules as a nice, easy start. Rule number 1, 80% of the foods you include come from single ingredient food. So that should dominate your overall nutrition 80% of the time. Rule number 2 is be flexible 20% of the time. There is scope there to include food you love if you fit it into your calories and if it doesn't dominate your daily sort of nutritional habits. Definitely room to be flexible. Rule number 3, track your food intake via MyFitnessPal. Hit your calories. That's the main target. Try and increase your lean protein intakes. Now, just a couple of things I want to add. When you start tracking, you'll find a little bit tricky at first. And I want you to just focus on just hitting your calorie targets. Don't worry about the macros too much too soon. People overcomplicate nutrition far too early. Just hit your calorie targets. Then once you've got that nailed, aim for calories and protein, and then get really good at those 2 things. Then once you've got calories and proteins, then we can move on to a bit more sort of the nitty gritty with, carbs and fats maybe, and different foods that agree with you. If you really do struggle with this and you'll find it tough, or maybe just completely new to tracking, a way to make it a bit easier is don't even worry about hitting specific calorie or macro targets. Just get used to using the tracking app, your food, and seeing how much you're eating each day, just to get a real feel for it week on week. And once you feel comfortable with it, then go into tracking your calorie targets and just build it up daily, weekly, and then go on to your protein after that. So like I said, the 3 nutrition rules. Rule number 1, single ingredient foods 80% of the time. Rule number 2, be flexible 20% of the time. Rule number 3, track your food and hit sort of your calories and your macronutrients, but start slow with the tracking. Get used to it. Make it a habit first, essentially, okay? So next lesson, we're going to move on to building better habits. Any questions, let me know, and I will see you in the next lesson.